and maybe we could go to a track and come back with Matthew Ward.
Sounds good.
Okay, here's Phoenix, Long Distance Call.
Where to go, I had no idea. 2610 was the price to pay. A messed up kid with no ideals at all. I thought, those 2610, I shouldn't give them away. I remember this young guy died and I took a spot. He got 40 minute stitches on his pretty face. A long time to see, but I always thought a stew would be serious. I was looking around town, thinking the same as you. I'm far gone, but you long distance call, and your capital letters keep me asking for more. It's never been like that, 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 no. I'm far gone, but you long distance call, and your capital letters keep me asking for more. Where to go, I had no idea about it. Most of the people do, they only doing just fine. I don't want to stay in place no more. See, and doing well, I'm only doing just fine. Long time no see, long time no say. Got little to tell, I don't say much, but I might. Something always told me it's too would be serious. I am looking around town, thinking the same as you. I'm far gone, but your long distance call, and your capital letters keep me asking for more. It's never been like that, 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 no. Far gone, but your long distance call, and your capital letters keep me asking for more. It's never been like that, 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 no. Far gone, but your long distance call, and your capital letters keep me asking for more. Long time no see, long time no say.
That was Phoenix with Long Distance Call. How's it going, Mike?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. Not too bad. So we're all set to bring Matthew Ward on here and talk some economics?
Absolutely. Let's invite Matthew
I-
on to the show right now.
Perfect.
And here we go.
Hi, Matt.
That's me.
How you doing? Do you prefer Matt or Matthew?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, as we mentioned before, we're joined now by Matthew Ward, a retired CEO and heterodox economist. You know, I got to admit, Matt, I need you to explain to me what a heterodox economist is, or what they do.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Yeah, well, there's economics is a very defined subject. It's a subject on its own, and for years it was practiced that way, sort of a specialty, if you will. And since the problems in 2008, I think people have come to realize that economics is not a standalone pursuit. All facets of society and civilization are bound up in economics, and if you want to understand economics fully, you have to pull in other disciplines, other subject areas, everything from history, which is one of my things, accounting, another one of mine, down to psychology, sociology, geography, all these things influence economics, and so heterodox economists are involved in this periphery of study, if you will.
So this is a newer development in the study of economics. Then it's not as defined in just the area of economics. You're taking in and considering these other fields, and that adjusts the way that you look at economics in general.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is a growing and developing field, and it doesn't like to be pinned down to any one thing. But essentially, it comes from a rift with your standard Paul Krugman types who tread that narrow academic path. And I think these people blew it in 2008, and that was really the impetus to have another look at economics, a much broader, wider scope, and see if policy can be adopted from those areas.
Right, Matthew, it's Tony here. How you doing?
Tony, how are you, man?
Thank you. Good, thanks. I wanted to just ask you, and preface the question by saying I'm an admirer of your writing on your blog, newworldeveryday.com, and I really think you have a talent for breaking down economic issues and making them understandable for the layperson. Do you think that the everyday Canadian needs to have a greater understanding of economic issues in order to understand what their government is doing and how their government is now affecting their lives?
Oh, I think that's, to me anyway, that's obvious, because you have to consider that government and politics are bound up with economics, and whereas in the past you can argue that politics drove economics, it was policy, fiscal policy, monetary policy that drove economics. That has ceased to be true in the last decade or more, I would say, and it is now economics that drive social policy, if you will.
Yes.
And people are, I don't know what it is about economics. It's like accounting. It's just one of these scary, dull, boring. They call it dull science.
In the mass media, it's been portrayed as the most boring of academic disciplines. Don't get interested in this, people. That's too boring for you. Just leave that to the specialists.
It might just be the most important thing you'll ever learn, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you consider it's a broad framework for everything, and then when you consider that people really aren't taught these things unless it's an elective of sorts, and you don't get that till later in life, and then you get to be a specialist academic cubicle dweller somewhere down the end. But this all contributes to just a wide misunderstanding of economics and where it fits.
It seems
so I agree with you guys.
Yeah, it seems to me that in the aftermath of the 2008 meltdown, it became more important than ever for people to understand economics, especially the economics of globalization as it applies to the international financial system, right, and bond markets. Because one thing that we see right now is bond markets are dictating to governments in Europe, and it is interesting to see that process unfold. And in your article, Greece is the Word, you touch on this idea of a Greek default, and how that's going to apply to everything that's happening here.
Well, in fact, one of the more horrifying developments of the last decade has been this rise of finance and this rise of debt, which of course we're all familiar with. But I think people are unfamiliar with just the size and scope of this debt finance issue, and how it's not just in Europe, but it reaches even into China, into Canada, of course, the United States, obviously. It reaches everywhere and affects everything now, whereas in the past it was a single component of a machine with many moving parts. Now it is that big drive wheel, that big cog at the front of the engine, and that's the real issue today.
Yeah, and I think it's important to stress that what's happening in Greece right now is going to set a precedent for a lot of other countries. There are basically negotiations going on right now for Greece to default in whole or in part on their national debt, and the bond markets are reacting in as violent a manner as a bond market can react to that news, and playing Europe off against Greece with holding a big gun to the world's head at the same time, right?
Well, I guess you have to maybe a little history. You have to go back and look at the European Union and just what it is.
Okay.
And it if you'll indulge me for two here.
Absolutely.
It grew out of in post-war Europe. There was a desire to make sure there was never war again, and there was a really cool move to unite Europe into one large federation. So kind of like a United States of Europe, tie everybody together economically and solve the problem that way. At the same time, it was the beginning of I guess these talks began in the late 50s and came to fruition with the Maastricht Treaty of November of 1993, when the whole thing was made formal. But at the time, it sort of rode the EU and the North American group and the Asia group. All these economic units all grew with this big economic surge that occurred from the late 70s through to 2008. And as the EU grew, it added more and more members. I believe it has 27 members now. And Greece was added in, I believe, the 80s. And the last folks in was Croatia in December of 2011. So it's still growing.
Now, Matthew, just not to interrupt you, but I just have a question here. In terms of the European Union, there are two aspects to that. There's the monetary union, and then there's the other level of the Eurozone political union. Correct?
Correct, and this was warning signs that people threw up, flares that people threw up as this was being developed, because it became a very good monetary union. Of course, they have a common currency and common monetary policies, but they left fiscal issues to individual nations.
Right.
So, whereas Greece would be tied into the monetary system, its government was left to make fiscal policy on its own. Now, this worked great while the tide was rising, and really the EU, just like in North America and Asia, the whole game was distributing the goodies from growth. This was what the game was.
Right.
But when growth stopped and started to slip, the goodies stopped, and the Union was unprepared to deal with the fact that now we can't just use our monetary tools to fix these problems. We also need fiscal tools. But there's no unified fiscal policy. There's no unified fiscal
no, they had laid out
taxes.
Yeah, they had laid out some simple guidelines, like your deficit to GDP ratio couldn't exceed a certain amount, right?
Oh yeah, they have. To gain entry, you have to meet all kinds of tests and guidelines, all of which were quite bright. Yeah. But there was never any plan in place for what happens when the growth stops, and then all these plateaus and touch points, you start missing them.
Right.
What do we do then?
And what you're basically saying is that there was no mechanism by which you could kick a country out, right?
There's no mechanism to kick a country out. There's no mechanism to force someone, a country like, say, Greece, to enact this tax law or that austerity measure. That was left up to the individual countries. And, of course, the individual countries, being all democracies, who wants to campaign on the platform of severe austerity to help the Union?
So
exactly.
Is that essentially why you would say then that the government that they have in Greece now was essentially imposed on them? And I believe it's a former banker that's now in charge of Greece. Obviously, he's not going to pull them out of the Eurozone, and Greece is going to have to look at a way to swallow some of this, some of the problems. It almost seems like a shell game, and it's like or a roulette, and it landed on Greece, and Greece has to pay.
Well, essentially what has occurred is there are rich nations and there are not so rich nations.